It's time for TWiT This Week in Tech, fueled today by Bullet Rye Whiskey, Baratunde Thurston, Nick Bilton, Joshua Topolsky. We'll talk about so many things, including the floods in Thailand. And what else did we talk about? The porn industry. The future of... we
talk a lot about globalization, the cost of everything.
The cost of everything. We talked about Siri, the future of Apple Television.
All right, that's good.
The death of Google.
Thank you. What they said. Watch the show. It's coming up next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Audio bandwidth for This Week in Tech is provided by the new Winamp for Android, featuring wireless sync and one-click iTunes import. Now with free daily music downloads and full-length CD listening parties. Download it for free at winamp.com/Android. Video bandwidth for TWiT is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. This is TWiT, This Week in Tech, episode 326, recorded November 6th, 2011. You know what frosts my nuggets? This Week in Tech is brought to you by Ford, featuring voice-activated Sync app link. Now you can control select smartphone apps with your voice, so you keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road. Check it out in the 2012 Ford Fiesta and at ford.com/technology. And by GoToMeeting. Today's mobile world makes easy-to-use collaboration software more than nice to have. It's a necessity. For your free 30-day trial, visit GoToMeeting.com and use the promo code TWiT. And by Audible.com. Sign up for the Platinum plan and get 2 free books. Visit Audible.com/TWiT2. And don't forget to follow Audible on Twitter, user ID Audible_com. This is TWiT, This Week in Tech, and joining us, a great panel once again to discuss the week's tech news. And it's a bunch of authors today, starting with Nick Bilton, who lives in the future and, in fact, shares how it works. The paperback edition is now out. Nick Bilton writes, of course, for the New York Times Bits blog. He's the lead technology writer there, a reporter for the paper. I'm reading off the back of the book.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, that makes it a good way for me.
I was actually impressed that you knew that much about it.
And he blogs at nickbilton.com. So congratulations.
He doesn't. He usually
you don't write anything.
It's like once.
Wait, who has time?
Who has time? No one. I tweet.
You tweet. And you
He's
brought
not a blogger,
lollipops.
he's
You
a
said you brought me a gift. Was the lollipop a gift?
No, the gift was the book.
Oh, the book.
And
All right.
whiskey.
And also sitting next to me, my black friend Baratunde. Now, I say that because that's what you wrote in here.
I actually signed it for you that way.
Yeah, so don't write me letters, folks.
Write me letters.
This is going to be out any minute now.
It'll be out January 31st.
Finally.
But you can pre-order it.
You can pre-order, and I'm doing a very special thing, Leo.
What's that?
I'm doing a street team for the book. I'm recruiting an army, a black army of blackness. You don't have to be black to be in the army.
Can anybody join?
Oh, good.
Anybody can join. I encourage everybody to join. If you want to be behind
You have to read the book
a
first?
bestseller, you can join this thing.
So join the team. It's about.me/
How to be black.me
Okay, never mind.
/join/TWiT. There's a special code just for TWiT.
howtobeblack.me/join/TWiT.
There you go.
What do we get?
So you're going to get early access to the book.
Oh, that's great.
You're going to get a private messaging group to share ideas. You're going to get a forum for the other street team members. You're going to get private video chats.
That's
personally
awesome.
signed copy by me, and a whole bunch of other stuff to be decided. And you'll also get to make a book blow up.
Baratunde has been working on this book for a long time. I'm so glad to have the proof here. Thank you. I can't wait to read this.
Thank you very much. You've been awesomely supportive.
Also joining us, this is a big day for Joshua Topolsky because his new site, The Verge, has launched. And you know what, Joshua? We were talking before the show. Beautiful job on this. Very impressive.
Thank you very much.
You remember Joshua was editor-in-chief at Engadget, started something called This Is My Next with a bunch of his Engadget pals like Nilay Patel. And they have gone on to create the site. They were working on it for a long time, and you could tell, this feels like a site that's been around for years. The content on this is incredible.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job.
I'm just really blown
really
away.
Beautiful.
Of course,
Thank
we brought it to its knees, but
Yeah, you've crashed it. I know you don't know. We launched in the middle of the night, and my greatest fear, of course, is that you would launch and immediately crash. They found, the developers like, we're going to pick the lowest traffic time to launch it. And
that was smart.
It's been stable. I'm jinxing it now. Here I am jinxing it, but it's been stable thus far, which is great. It's always wonderful to that the site doesn't go down. So that's exciting. I warn them though.
So Joshua, can you share any of the numbers as far as what you had from This Is My Next, as far as users and page views, or is that top secret?
Last month, This Is My Next, we did about 3 million uniques and 10 million page views, and already, I mean, we're probably gonna do far better than that with the Verge as of right now.
One of the things I wondered about, do you think that people followed you from Twitter and things like that? Was that how they found your stories on This Is My Next?
I think at the start, for sure. I mean, we've only had Twitter to promote ourselves, and in fact, I think that we're annoying to some people who follow a bunch of the people from the site, because as soon as there's a new link, a big story, we're all tweeting it. But yeah, I think that, I mean, I cannot understate the importance of social in letting people know what we're doing and where we're doing
it. Just like
and
Baratunde's doing. I mean, you're really pushing this through the social even months before it comes out.
I mean, I want to change the way people get the ideas out there. I certainly want to change the way books are sold. And so got a really great publisher, trying to build on top of that and just make
HarperCollins was up for that.
I think they were excited because they have an author that actually knows Twitter and is excited about it.
They don't, but they hope to learn from you, right?
Yeah, no, I wrote the book in public using screen sharing. Did a lot of weird stuff, so we want to do the marketing the same way.
You know, it's funny. I wrote a book in 2004 that I had a spy cam on me the whole time. And as I was doing the countdown of pages, I'd actually have the countdown in the corner, say 300 pages to go, 290 to go, and all that stuff. Didn't help the book at all.
I took a page out of your book.
Didn't do anything at all.
You know
what was the book about?
Interesting though is
there was no Twitter then. There was
no Twitter. Well, I think that this is really important. If you look at the fact that they had 3 million uniques, Twitter is the new printing press, right?
Yeah.
It's who
and that was something we were talking about, because you've made the Verge a great destination site, but I bet you most people don't enter from the front page. They click a link in Twitter and they
I mean, there's a lot. Yeah, traffic's coming from a lot of different places, and we were talking about this before we started, that we wanted to make each part something you could enter and experience that you didn't feel like you necessarily, you could experience it and enjoy it without necessarily going to the rest of it, though I think there are lots of great hooks into the rest of the site. But yeah, not everybody's going to the portal. The front page isn't the portal. So, and social has been huge for that. I mean, what Nick is saying, it's incredible that we were able to leave a big site and to let people know what we were doing and where we were and what our plans were and our timelines, and they paid attention. And I don't think you can get that kind of traction with people in any other way. I mean, it's kind of amazing. And we're not like, I think that we're kind of tame when it comes to social media. I mean, we're not really shilling, right? We're just kind of trying to say, hey, we're here, we're doing this thing. So, we don't have a social media specialist who's, running our, we do have a social media guy.
Oh, yeah. Very expensive.
Maybe. Really? No, I can't. Sorry.
When you say you're tame, who's not tame? Ashton Kutcher? I mean, who is bleeding edge? Who is cutting edge on this?
Cutting edge on what respect?
So using social media to promote themselves and to make a...
Who's not cutting edge on it?
I guess everybody's doing that. But I mean, is there anybody who is like...
Look at Gary Vee, for instance. There's a guy who has been just is everywhere, right? I mean, he really is killing it in social media. Gary Vee. And I think I think we're less...
Although I was at Gary Vee's Facebook page, and I somehow happened upon it. If I'm,
you know what? It's exhausting. He's tired. He needs to take a break. That's why.
Well, he hasn't. Let's see, Gary.
He's tired. I'm telling you.
He doesn't have. He's not using it a lot. It's.
He's exhausted.
He's got a company.
Should pipe in his Twitter. That's the best way to do it. Yeah. Just
so
keep your Twitter.
That same pattern of kind of sideways entrance is something we started noticing on the Onion web traffic a few years ago as the homepage declined.
They don't go to the front page.
Yeah, people, because of the social influence. Yeah. So it started with RSS, actually.
Right.
And then when Twitter came along, that joke.
Yeah,
now that Google Reader's dead, maybe we can finally get back to front pages.
I've been saying to everybody that everything is viral now. Everything, and really is, and that's not just like a catchphrase. I think that everything becomes a little bit viral, and the way people are finding things is in a very viral fashion, which is, hey, your friend is showing you something, or you're seeing it on Twitter, and the portal is definitely on the decline. I think there's a certain number of users that want to go into that front page and see everything. But I do think that the concept of the portal is changing and declining.
Can I ask him one more question,
please,
Josh? Which is,
this is much better than any of the news stories we've got this week.
In terms of your business model, do you find that your advertisers want that homepage more, and like how do you balance
Oh, that's
that?
interesting.
Because just like
so
the big TV
Advertisers are way behind everybody else.
Yeah.
Right, so how do you sell
they
to them when your traffic is sideways?
They do that. They do want that, but they also, I mean, when we were going to advertisers, and the sales side is something that I'm not that involved in, but one of the things we could do is to say, look, we have, and we did this, and we sold a bunch of this stuff. We said, we've got the homepage, but we have the reviews page, we have the product page, we have an Android page, we have an Apple page. So if you're Motorola and you want to advertise to your, we've got an Android forum. So you've got an Android forum, Android product. You've got a cell phone product page that's Android related. You've got Android hub page, which is just Android news. So there are all these places. So we actually sold it saying you don't have to just buy the homepage. There are other really significant, important portals that you can buy. So we have mini portals in the big portal, and they did buy, and we had great. Our launch sponsors are incredible. BMW, Sony, and Samsung are the first set of launch sponsors. So people were really, they wanted in. They actually were intrigued by that.
Name those sponsors for me again, John?
We'll print them in capital letters.
I'm actually just, the co-founder, Marty Moe, he's the guy who's usually big up in the salespeople, and now I have, it's part of when I'm talking about the site, it pops into my head. No, I can't. It's incredible, though.
BMW
I was surprised.
For months, not months, years, has been on the forefront of this kind of viral advertising, haven't they?
They made the transporter. What was the car driving thing?
Yeah, they did. And then remember they had a little weird mystery bug on the Apple page that when you clicked it, it was a mystery ad campaign. Yeah. And that was years ago.
They have a lot of money.
They have a lot of money.
All right, so we only have an hour left.
So I'm going to move on.
No,
but
that's not
before
fair.
we do, we're going to take a break. But
go way longer than
I want to talk about, this is going to be the week that the tablets come out. This is going to be the week. The Barnes & Noble Nook gets announced this week. And the Fire comes out in 2 weeks. It comes out on the 15th. The Barnes & Noble Nook comes out the day after. Let's talk about tablets, because that's going to be a big story. We have lots to talk about. None of it as interesting as just sitting around drinking and talking about social media, but I guess...
When are we going to start doing drugs on the show?
Well, actually,
we stop.
Baratunde
goes from
Baratunde
water
does
to whiskey to
does say that these are gateway drugs. He does say that he was raised during the crack years of the 1980s in Washington.
I survived. I'm a survivor. Yeah, it was a tough era.
Was that when Marion Barry was the mayor?
It was from the top down.
Yeah,
the whole system was pretty corrupted.
Did you smoke crack out of your toes, Baratunde?
I did not smoke crack out of anything.
Okay,
good man, good man. That's why he's here today.
Yes,
and able to sit up
my
all
non-crack
by
smoking,
himself,
which is responsible for my success.
Did you know Chelsea Clinton when you were at Sidwell Friends?
She knew me. Yes,
she knew you.
I like that. I like how you turned that around.
She knew you.
I was 2 years older than Chelsea Clinton.
Now, is she hot in real life?
Okay, we're moving on. Too much whiskey. Not enough content. By the way, thank you for bringing rye this time instead of bullet bourbon. I've had bullet bourbon. Molly Wood brought me bullet bourbon, and I love it.
Want to mix it up for you.
What is rye?
Rye is awesome.
It's just another kind of whiskey made out of...
I pulled up the page.
Is it made out of rye bread?
It soaks in an oak cask. There's some rules about the proof that it is, and
it all comes down to the casks, right? It's not really necessarily
it's all about the
liquids
and how long,
but
also the age of them and the proof that they end up at. In what state
I
they
thought
come
rye
from.
was
There's rules about this stuff.
I always thought rye was for drunks.
Any alcohol is
That's
for
why we
drunks.
brought it for you. Yeah.
I don't think they're that discriminating.
Pepto-Bismol can be for drunks.
I'm a drunk, but I'll only have rye.
I just thought rye was not, I don't know. I have this bad idea, but I have this impression that rye
false
was
impression. Yeah.
Rye was for winos, but that's wrong. Rye, you know why it's that song? Rye whiskey, I cry. If I don't have rye whiskey, I surely will die.
I've never heard that song.
You've never heard that?
But now I'm worried about you.
No, I am too. Hi, my name's
You've
Leo,
never heard
and
it? You've
I've
never
been an
heard that?
alcoholic.
I've heard
We
that
talk
song
about it all the
before.
time
I've
at the
heard that
meetings.
song before.
In fact, we sing it at the end of every meeting. Let me talk a little bit about GoToMeeting, speaking of meetings. And we'll be back with more with Baratunde, Nick, and Joshua. Sounds like a folk group.
I like that.
I like it too.
The Brooklyn Trio will join
Nick
us.
and Joshua went to a tree.
Doing this. I play
Drank some
drums.
white whiskey.
Oh, now they'll never return. No, they'll never return. See, GoToMeeting is this great product from Citrix.
Oh, rhino seeds.
Lets you meet online, right? So the idea is you put GoToMeeting on your computer and you send out an email with a link, and then people can join you. They can see your desktop, but now, thanks to HD Faces, they can see you. So it's got video conferencing, it's got screen sharing, and get ready for this. Now people attending your meetings can meet with you on any computer, of course, Mac or Windows, on an iPad, we've had that for a while, and now on iPhones and Android phones too.
Oh, wow.
So this means we're going to have more and more meetings in bars, subways, men's rooms. It's going to be amazing. It's going to transform meetings. And actually, I'm being a little facetious, but it is true that nowadays it's hard to get the troops together. Everybody's moving around. You have offices everywhere, people all over the world that you work with, whether you're collaborating, selling, training, status meetings, any kind of meeting. This is a great solution. And $49 a month for as many meetings as you want, as long as you want. It's a great deal. But don't pay anything right now. Free, if you go to GoToMeeting.com, click the Try It Free button, and use our offer code TWiT. 30 days free, GOTO meeting.com, offer code TWiT.
Try it for free.
Try it for free.
Do it. If you love meetings, you'll love GoToMeeting.
No. If you hate meetings, you'll love GoToMeeting. Everybody hates meetings. Nobody would use this if you had to love meetings. GoToMeeting.com, use the offer code TWiT. So we're going to see the Nook tomorrow, the color Nook.
The color tablet.
Oh, they don't call it a Nook.
Tablet.
They're pushing the word tablet.
Tablet.
Yeah. The new one is going to be called, I think they're going to get rid of color. They're going to call it Nook Tablet. I think we saw some leaked stuff.
It's the Nook. It's a little faster, it's got a little more memory. It's the Nook.
Well, they're going to really push more multimedia content, videos,
HD
music.
movies.
It's
things like
$50 more than the Kindle Fire.
that is correct.
Yeah.
Non-starter.
Well, so we've heard.
Non-starter, if that's the case,
I mean,
right?
no one cares about the specs.
Why would you?
Well, Barnes & Noble does have some cool features. So one of them, for example, is which I mean, maybe it doesn't make sense for a lot of people, but if you have a Barnes & Noble Nook product and you go into a Barnes & Noble and you sit there, you literally have access to every single book that appears on the Nook. When you leave, it's as if you're there.
So you could read in the. That's kind of cool. You could read it in the
It's like being in the store. Yeah, you can just open a book.
and you bring your device and you can read, and then you can say, I want to buy
like
this,
that.
and you walk away and it disappears.
They found something that Amazon can't duplicate because
Correct.
they don't have the brick and mortar.
retail locations, which is something that.
But look what Amazon did in response. The Kindle Owners Lending Library. You get a free book a month.
Yeah, Nick and I were talking about this on the drive up, and I think there is something novel and weird about imposing the physical lending scarcity metaphor to a.
But it's not really lending because you have as long as you want to read it.
You're
Well, this is the
subscribing,
difference.
essentially.
Yeah,
One
in the
book at
Barnes
a
and Noble
time.
version, you don't. You have to return it after 7 to 10 days. Or
Oh,
something.
okay. So you don't have.
That's the lending piece.
the
that's not
library.
the.
That's the library piece.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, the library. That's a separate thing.
That's
I mean,
separate from
Amazon
reading
has a deal with actual thousands of libraries where you can loan books out from the library and you have to return them 7 to 14
it's
days
physically,
later.
it's like that digital copy is
Well,
physically.
wait a minute.
removed.
Do I have to go to a library to do this?
Not for this new thing that we're talking about. No, they've got about 5,000
But there's a
titles.
limited. There's a limited number of copies, right?
Well, yeah, but which is just ridiculous. It's like
Yeah.
we're applying these physical metaphors to these digital
Okay,
products
so-
where there is no such thing as
I
supply
think
and
you're very
demand.
confused right now. That's the problem.
I have a
Nobody-
Kindle. I have a Prime membership. You have to be Prime.
Yeah, this is adding value to
Now there's 5,000 titles.
Yes.
And so I do have a Kindle. So I could just say I want to read the portable SAT, but there's a limited number of people that can do this.
No.
Not
I
with
think
this one.
The limit is on how many you can have as a subscriber.
It says borrow this book for free with no due dates if you're a Kindle. Okay.
Yeah.
You can do one a month, right? 1 month free trial. You borrow this book as frequently as a book a month, and there's no due date. So
That's right.
every month I get a new book.
That's right.
Well, that's giving away a book a month. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
What's
Well,
wrong with that?
For Prime members.
For Prime members, no. What my problem is with these other lending services, some of which Amazon has, where
I don't
they-
like the library stuff.
where the library,
I
exactly,
don't
where they
like
say
that.
you can only have the book for 7 to 10
Yeah,
days.
it's like, but there's no limit. This
Exactly.
is a digital edition. What are you
Exactly.
talking about?
It's
But that's the
ridiculous.
publishers doing that.
That's the publisher
One,
doing that.
in this case, I
Right.
think the one major limit on this new Amazon lending library is that they don't have the 6 major publishers signed up yet. So their catalog is pretty limited. They're trying to prove
So it's a bunch of
space
crap,
to the
basically.
publishers
Yes.
because they're afraid they're going to lose back catalog sales and kind of archive titles.
Well, they do have some good stuff on there. I mean, they have 100 of the top New York Times bestsellers.
Yeah.
But it's a very limited.
It's 5,000 titles.
5,000.
What it reminds me a lot
of
of is Netflix streaming, Amazon streaming, and this is the problem: is that you can be innovative and come up with these new, interesting things, but the content creators are terrified.
Well, the business models are not nearly as innovative, and the legal models are even less innovative.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it-
I mean,
it's
there's
really
a lot
sad
of
to
there's a
lawyers.
lot of cruft in the there's a lot of cruft in the system, right? The way that we think about content and who owns it and who can use it and where it goes, and they haven't figured it out. So they're doing crazy things like you're getting a digital copy, but it's a representative copy of a physical copy, and you have to give it back because somebody else needs it.
So,
which is
and the other thing that's really it's just ridiculous when you apply these metaphors to. I mean, they managed to pull it off with media, but what if you bought a digital camera and then they said you can't see the photos for 3 months?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Why would they do that? Wait a minute, I don't understand.
But that would make sense to Kodak, you know.
Right.
But if you think about where we are still coming from with the cable box world, some of those limits are not that unreasonable. I mean, in terms of historically being present. So you can imagine that future, especially, it reminded me of Zittrain's book, the Future of the Internet and How to Stop It, something like that. And just worrying about the control that content makers have, along with copyright holders and legislatures, to tell your TiVo what it can and can't do and switch things on.
So here's the argument that Steve Jobs made that was actually a compelling argument that busted the monopoly of the music industry. He said, guys, they're robbing you blind. The only reason the music industry was willing to do a deal with iTunes is because they didn't want to sell 99-cent songs. They wanted to sell bundled albums. Steve said, look, they're going to steal them. They're going to download them. Isn't that argument just as compelling for the movie industry, the TV industry, and the publishing industry?
Oh, yeah, books.
Yes.
Always streaming books constantly. I just go to these book hacks.
Amazon should just say, look, guys, you should be happy to do this. We're keeping people in the commerce, and we're keeping them off Pirate Bay.
They really should be actively and aggressively looking at ways to make content completely accessible for money, because people will buy it. It's a proven fact that if you give somebody an option to easily go and buy it, I mean, I would pay tons of money to get the content I want without having to jump through hoops or to get some elaborate setup in my living room, or, you know, I mean, it is incredibly aggravating right now that the other content industries have not figured out what the music industry was hurt. I mean, make no mistake about it. Labels aren't the same as they were before, but I assure you, there are more people making money off of music now than ever before.
Absolutely.
Because they leveled the playing field, which is awesome.
The beauty of you look at what this is also, if you look at the grand scheme of fragmentation and decentralization of authority, which is what this is all really about at the big picture, right? Whether it's movies or politics or banking, you're having, central authorities are kind of losing their power to the edge again. And so in that sense, you have a choice of whether you keep begging at the door of the mainstream old school broadcaster, the centralized authority, or you just go build your own thing. And so Amazon is also
I think that's what we did here, by the way.
Leo is, you guys.
No, I've coined a new term for this as microcasting.
Yeah.
And I think it's the future in many ways of broadcasting. Broadcasting was you get as many people as you want watching Seinfeld, as you can rather watching Seinfeld. It lowers common denominator. You have to pander to people so you get millions of people, hence Snooki.
You shoot for the middle.
And you shoot for the lower middle.
Broad middle.
The broad middle. Or you do what we do, which is I'm not trying to get a broad audience. I'm trying to get a very dedicated, engaged, narrow audience. Microcasting.
So this is you turned to the porn chapter in my book before.
I did
was
right
what
to
the
the
porn
point.
chapter was about. That's the wrong book.
Wrong book, Leo.
No porn in
There's no
how to be
porn in
porn.
how to be
There's no porn in the.
There's no porn.
Okay.
In
No, but one of the things.
I just lost a lot of sales.
There will be. It's not done yet.
Isn't there a spread of nude photos?
Borrow
in that?
my
I think
chapter
there-
and put it in there.
Chapter 0.
So one of the things, the reason I wrote about the porn industry in the book was because although they've been at the forefront of every technology, and one of the things that they realized was that they could, if people are into, 3-foot-tall women that wear glasses and have striped stockings,
There's a site for
a site
everyone.
for that people will.
Can you give me that URL?
We interviewed
like a great time
Eric
block.
Ries of the Lean Startup this week on our Triangulation show. Really interesting.
Yeah, he's great.
And he said, you've got to care about making something of value. Otherwise, if you just want to make money, do porn. If it's all about money, it all comes down to porn. If it's about something else,
Well, if it's about a niche market, it comes down to money. That is.
well, I don't. If I wanted to make more money, I would make it a broader show. I mean, the one limitation of microcasting is we're not talking hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
We're talking a smaller amount of money.
Wait,
But
we're
you
not
run
getting
your
paid
business.
hundreds of millions for this show?
Sorry, Nick.
No. Nobody.
I mean,
would.
Leo, your business works, right? You're making money.
Well, but
You can pay your staff, right?
Oh yeah, and we have 20, 20 employees.
You built this new studio. I mean, I think the thing is, you look at the model, the old model. The old model is very little gets through. It's all controlled by one place.
That's right.
You have to go to one place to get it, and so you don't really have. There is no choice, right? The choice is you have ABC, CBS, or NBC, or whatever. The new model is, and this is something that I was thinking about the whole time we were building this new site, which is I looked at the landscape of other websites and other news sites, and I saw how many there are. You really start to think about how many sites are there that do similar things or the same thing, and they have their following and they have their business and it's profitable. They're making money. They're paying their employees. And it's kind of stunning to see all of these businesses, news in particular, covering similar beats. And they're able to sustain businesses, and they're small companies, and they're audiences for all of them.
That's very positive. When you say this, it's democratizing. It's taking this out of the hands of the oligarchs, the people who have all that capital, the Andrew Carnegies of the world, and letting every individual have a voice. No, it's very, to me, it's so positive and uplifting.
It certainly has a high level of potential. And
frankly,
for some, it becomes
the economy is tanking. Yeah. We need to we need to get back to an economy that is distributed, that is decentralized. Clearly,
we're doing it,
and I think that thanks to technology, it's going to happen anyway.
Oh, absolutely. And the other part is that when you don't have a brick and mortar business where you have the expenses of that,
right.
You have much lower overheads, and you can expand and experiment and so on. If Joshua were starting the Verge as a print publication, there would have been a lot more money that would have to be put behind it.
Well, that's why apps, that's why the web, that's why software businesses. This is a huge innovative time for that.
Correct.
Because it costs almost nothing.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not for the Verge. I'm sure that was a fairly expensive proposition.
Relatively
well, it costs money, but the money is there.
Printing press money.
It's not printing press money, and there's not printing and not printing press time, and you can move quickly. So if something wasn't working, we can change it immediately. We can change a thing that's not working immediately. And with a printing press and with a magazine or a newspaper, it moves much slower. It is kind of incredible to have that agility, to be able to pivot or to move when you need to. And that's something that you can do in technology that you can't do almost anywhere else. When you start to bring machinery into it, it's impossible.
Speaking of pivoting.
Well, I'm not going to pivot yet, but I shouldn't be drinking this rye.
That was said so honestly. That's the most honest thing you've ever said on the show.
Things are going to get really dark on this, aren't they, really quick?
This is going to start confessing things.
I had something there. I was going to go with it, but I've forgotten now. We will pivot. Let's pivot.
All right, Nick.
You've made me pivot, Nick.
Okay,
you and your rye
I want to talk about something. Speaking of the equivalent.
Oh, wait a minute! I just remembered.
But get this man another shot.
I want to circle around to how we started this, which is these devices, the Kindle and the Nook.
Yes.
Aren't these, in fact, those centralizing devices? How important are these to this democratizing infrastructure?
Yes and no. And the reason no is yes, right now they are app.
It concentrates power in the hands of Barnes and Noble and of Amazon
and Apple too,
and
with the iPad.
Yeah.
However. Eventually, we're going to get to a point where those apps are primarily web apps, in the same respect that the desktop, 10 years ago, everything was an app on the desktop, and now they're all apps in the cloud, and or Photoshop and things like that you still download.
They're a hybrid. I think they're a hybrid. I mean, and you already see on an iPad, you can have the Kindle app and the Nook app and the Kobo app, and those are all different cloud stores. Yeah, exactly. And you can read them anywhere, and your place is saved. It's kind of fascinating.
But the other thing is, if you look at the cost of these devices, the fact that
they're cheaper than computers.
Yeah, they're cheaper than computers, but the fact that the color Amazon device is coming out next week is $250. Yeah. So if you look at the cost of I've said this before, but if you look at the cost of a 10 megabyte hard drive in 1984, it was like $4,000.
Right.
You literally cannot get one for 0.01 cents right now because it's just so cheap.
Right.
So this $200 Nook or whatever it is that's coming out next week in 5-10 years is going to cost 0.01 cents.
As long as you don't continue the pathological route that Apple is engaged in of closing it off and owning it and saying it's ours.
But they're not going to be able to.
They can't.
Because the perfect example is what Amazon did with the web version of the bookstore.
Right.
Where they have a web version.
Right.
Granted,
they broke that monopoly.
But it eventually will be. And,
they broke that monopoly. I have to say I'm encouraged. I think that now that after I've read this Steve Jobs book and I've spent some time thinking about this, he was pathological. He was pathologically paranoid, secretive. He wanted total control. He changed the screws on the 4S because he found out people were able to open the iPhone 4. So he said, well, we can't use standard screws because I don't want anybody opening my stuff. He was pathological.
Hey, here's to the crazy one.
Here's to the literally out of his.
I mean, I mean, but to do that kind of thing, I mean, you have to be a little bit crazy. I mean, to do what he's done, you have to be a
already,
little bit
though, and I
crazy.
think it's very interesting. Tim Cook is kind of changing things. For instance, Steve said we will never have a charity program at Apple where we match funds. Tim Cook has already said we're going to match up to $10,000 of employee
And
donations.
let's be realistic. You know, Baratunde and I were on the drive up. We were talking about the profit margins of the iPhone, right? So
Huge, right?
So
Yeah,
they own 4% of the smartphone market and 50% of the profit.
52% of operating profit.
You know who did that?
Who?
Tim Cook, not Steve Jobs.
Yeah?
Tim Cook was the
He's
genius
a
that
manager.
figured out how to monetize.
There's a
supply
telling
chains.
story in this book about the antenna gate issue. We finally learned this truth about antenna gate, which is that Jobs and Ive wanted this metal band around the iPhone because it looked good. The engineer said, guys, it's going to break the antenna. You can't do that. And Jobs said, make it work. They didn't make it work. Jobs stonewalled. He denied it. He said, you're holding it
He was
wrong.
a science denier.
He's a science denier. He thought the reality distortion field extended to physics. Apparently it didn't. They eventually had to resolve this, and I think they've redesigned it a little bit. But the point being that you can only go so far in denying reality.
Well, he denied reality with his cancer. I mean, he put
same thing.
off
And
getting surgery
it
for
probably
9
ended up
months.
killing him prematurely, unfortunately. Sad to say.
Well, it's funny. Somebody said to me the other day, you know, I was at a conference in Ireland, and somebody said, you know, I want to be Steve Jobs when I'm older. And I was like, do you really want to be Steve Jobs? I mean, the guy created amazing products, but at the same time struggled with pretty much
Is it
everything in
possible
his
to
life.
be a great product guy without being pathological?
I don't think so.
That's like asking, is it possible to be a great businessman without being a jerk?
That's
That's a good question, too.
I don't know the
and it's
answer
a
to
great
that.
combo. But, you know, Nick, does anybody who says I want to be Steve Jobs have a shot in hell at being Steve Jobs? No. I mean, I think if you
Baratunde
said,
Thurston maybe being the
if
first
you,
black
if
Steve
you
Jobs.
consciously think that you want to emulate Steve Jobs, there's no way you're going to do it. I don't think
correct.
Steve Jobs sat down and said, I want to be X. I think he was like, I'm going to be Steve Jobs.
Yeah, he was.
I think that's the only way you really become Steve Jobs is by not trying to be Steve Jobs.
That's good. That's a good message.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, Thailand. You've wanted to talk about it all show.
Thailand.
Thailand.
We're gonna talk about
Is that in
Thailand.
your book also? I think that's
Thailand
chapter
did not
6.
make it into my book.
Yeah, alt.thailand.
Are we talking about the flooding? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, flooding and hard
yeah,
drives.
we've been reporting on that.
Also,
Great.
well, and you have a good article, both of you.
Yes, we have two separate
have
angles
articles.
on the article. So
So that's
Fight.
exciting.
When we come
no,
back.
it's actually I think yes.
And
Fight anyway.
And get ready, because if you thought you'd had enough Steve Jobs, now there's a lost interview coming to a movie theater near you.
Yes.
Holy cow!
I want to see him on the big screen in VHS.
I was so disappointed with that PBS show where they said we have a 1994 interview, never before it aired. It was 2 sentences, which they repeated, just to make sure it looked like there was more. Before we do that, I do want to talk about Ford and amazing technology. Now Henry Ford. Here's an example. Henry Ford was much like Jobs in the sense that he didn't ask his customers what they wanted. In fact, somebody said,
He had a great quote about the horse.
yeah, if Henry Ford had asked customers what they wanted, they would have said, well, we want a faster horse.
Yeah.
It's
a great note.
It's
It's
exactly
totally true.
it's the same thing.
Yep.
You have to go where the puck is headed. So it's kind of amazing to see a company like Ford, that it really is an old line industrial company, one of the great companies of the United States, reinvent itself. Something that very rarely happens in business these days, and they truly have become a car company for the 21st century. Took no money from the bailout because they planned ahead. Alan Mulally, their amazing CEO, was an engineer first and foremost. Designed the 777 cockpit. Was all about systems, and I think he's kind of putting the 777 cockpit in your Ford. Pretty amazing what they're doing. If you want to see more, Ford.com/technology, or come to our barbecue next Sunday. It's next Sunday, right?
You having a barbecue?
We're having a Ford barbecue. You can come.
I timed my trip so
Why didn't
poorly.
you have a barbecue today when we
we're
showed
here.
up?
Because you're here, and I knew you'd
brought-
eat all the food.
Whiskey,
You brought whiskey. We have meat next week.
which goes great with whiskey.
Oh, damn. What was I thinking?
That's all right. We'll be there next time.
Well, we're having one December 4th, too. You come back.
I'll look
November
at that.
13th, December 4th. If you want to go to our barbecue, go to twit.tv, click the barbecue link, and sign up, because we will have a sellout. We're going to have a tent. We're getting a parade permit from the Petaluma Police.
You're doing a
So they're
parade?
vegetarian options?
There will not be. Come eat meat. Are you a vegetarian, Joshua?
Yeah.
Oh. Yes, there will be. There will
great.
be. There's always
tofurkey or something.
Yeah,
Go to
bread and
meeting.
salad.
This is a great time for
No. You know what?
'Cause of meat?
We are getting the best caterer in Petaluma to do this, and I'm sure there will be vegetarian.
Will there be some pork ribs and things like that?
That as well, because it's a barbecue.
Okay, good. I'm here.
There's something for everybody,
It'll be a vegetarian only barbecue.
including the 2012 Ford Fiesta.
Nightmarish.
We'll show you this app link thing. This is amazing. This is one of the things Mullally said is, look, our iterative process in designing cars can never be as fast as, let's say, Android or iPhones. Those guys really can crank out iterations. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make it so that there's an API for the Ford Sync. You know, that's the thing where you press the button on the steering wheel and you talk to your car that talks to your smartphone. And as smartphones add features, so will the car. So already it's out now on the 2012 Fiesta. Nice. It'll be on other new Ford vehicles. I'm going to get the electric Focus. I'm very excited about it. It'll be on that.
Car.
So what happens is you're driving along, keep your hands on the wheel, right? You keep your eye on the road. So it's safe. You press the button, boom. You can say, cabin temperature 73. You can say, where's the nearest gas station? You could say, play a song. But now you could say, launch Pandora on my smartphone. Works with iPhones, Android phones, and the newest Blackberries. Launch Pandora on you could say, play my classic rock station. Say thumbs up, thumbs down. You could say, bookmark this song and so I can buy it later. It'll work with Stitcher too, so you could listen to this. You could say, play TWiT. And it'll do that. Play TWiT 236. It'll say, okay. It works with it'll even read you tweets. They have this thing called OpenBeak. It'll read you tweets, your timeline or your replies.
OpenBeak is a pretty creative
Do you know about
name.
OpenBeak?
No, it's a pretty creative name.
It's like open.
Graphic.
Just like
Very
that should be
graphic.
the motto, that visual of your face right there.
OpenBeak.
Yeah.
That's it. That's
When
their
you
logo.
said
for
launch
OpenBeak.
at first, I thought you were going to say launch missiles.
Anyway,
Wow.
open.
Should have been great.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. But anyway, more and more apps are going to do this. This is called App Link, and it's on newer vehicles with Ford Sync. They have a thing for teenagers. None of you have kids. If you had kids, I do. You would love this. It's
Does
called
it shut them up?
Yes. It's called, of course, sort of. It's
Mute
called
children.
It's called My Key. When the kids take the car, it tells the car, don't go faster than this.
Oh.
Don't turn up. You can keep
Are
the
you kidding
stereo.
me?
No. You can keep the stereo
Wow.
from going too loud. And most importantly, it says it's almost out of gas at 75 miles left instead of 50 miles left. Because teenagers never put gas in the tank.
But does
Trust
it
me.
Really,
actually
50
limit the
miles?
speed
Mine's
of
like
the
my
car?
car's like 20.
No. The standard Ford is 50. By the way, just it's little things like when the light comes on and says you have 50 miles left. The GPS starts showing gas stations all of a sudden. So I know where the nearest gas station is. I can actually ask gas prices. It'll show me the cheapest gas nearby. Anyway,
There's no such thing
But
as
does
cheap
it
gas
actually?
anymore.
Well, it's not cheap.
This is my most important question. Does
What?
it actually limit the speed of the car when you're?
It does.
That's so dangerous. What if your kid?
Yeah, that's,
Well,
what if you need to
Well,
get
you
away
don't
from
make
something?
it 30 miles an hour.
Your kid has to
What
run
we
away
just
from
talked
the
about,
cops.
Leo, with the devices and the power of the devices that are connected to a network with these controls. There's got to be some kind of override for I'm running for my life from the killer behind me.
Yeah,
And if you've
right. What
limited
if you're
the car
getting,
speed to 50
rear-ended
and the
by
kid was going
some
55,
crazy
you just killed the
driver?
kid.
Is set to place
A
limits on
gun.
speed speed to 80 miles an hour. I think that's
Sounds
fast
dangerous.
enough.
I don't know.
It keeps them from going 100.
So Big Brother is your dad.
I have to say, when I was 16,
incestuous.
I was doing 100 on the freeway and almost killed me and
not good.
several people.
Yeah.
Not
You
good.
shouldn't be
There
allowed.
should have been a button that said
80.
You're an idiot.
80's plenty fast. Well, maybe they could do that. Instead, it wouldn't slow you down. Just say, stop! What are you
really annoying?
thinking?
It should be your dad's voice.
Baratunde,
It should be your
you're
dad's
driving too fast.
Or your
Slow
nana's
down.
voice. Or your nana's
Was
voice.
your mother Jewish? Slow down, Baratunde.
No, it should always be a nana. It doesn't even matter what
Yeah,
your
really.
ethnicity is. It's always a Jewish grandmother.
Ford.com/technology.
Is she saying you need to eat?
I hope Alan Mullally is taking note of all these suggestions. That's all I can
I'm
say.
just saying, if your kid needs to get away from something, you got to think about that, Alan.
I agree. I think this is a problem.
Well, you don't have to turn it on. If
There's
you're
an
the kind of
aliens app.
if you're worried about that, don't turn that part on. But make sure they don't listen to stereo too loud.
There you go.
You can't. There's no. Could
Okay.
you have an argument for louder stereo?
I was a philosophy major. I have an argument for
Oh,
everything.
you. Okay. You know what I'm. By the way, you can take down the Ford ad. This is no longer. iTunes U, amazing.
Yeah.
I'm listening to a lecture from philosophy at Yale on death.
Wow.
Like the philosophy of death. It's fascinating.
That's really cool.
I'm so depressed. I've been
Well,
reading the
knowledge
Steve
is
Jobs
spreading.
book. I'm listening to death. I'm
School has been
So what do
made
we got
obsolete.
next? We're
by
post-break.
iTunes U.
All right, let's go.
and now there's floods in Thailand.
Let's talk about Thailand.
Thailand is up.
No, we should actually really call it Thailand because it's a very serious.
So let's go, Nick.
So
have you seen the pictures? I mean, it's devastating. What's going on?
Well,
is this because they're not properly planning for these floods?
Absolutely.
They're overbuilding the urban areas?
Yeah, and they're overbuilding the factories and I mean everything. They're not planning. There's no planning.
You look at Bangkok and it's just scary.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that's happening is that there's been this flooding, and as a result, thousands of factories have been shut down.
Mostly hard drives, right?
Well, a lot of hard drives, but it's not necessarily just the hard drives. It's little springs and things like that from hard drives that are built around the world.
Parts,
so even parts that are being built in China cannot be put together. So
it's affecting tons of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's people,
tons
of course, people that are dying. There's people that don't have jobs. There's people that can't support their families. There's all of these different things that are happening.
And environmental devastation.
And
environmental devastation.
as Nick wrote, it's also about the cloud.
So one of the things I didn't realize when I started reporting the story was I was looking at it from the consumer standpoint. Yeah. So the next 2 quarters, they're going to be making about 30 to 35% less of hard drives, which is about 50 million less per quarter, which is going to have huge effects on consumers, right?
Yeah,
so you go to buy a hard drive, your computer is going to be more expensive, so on and so forth.
We're already seeing price gouging.
Yes.
People have, even though there's no shortage yet, people are already raising the price.
But the bigger problem is the massive drives for Oracle, Facebook, Google, Apple, all of these companies that require cloud computing. So Apple, for example, which is now expanding iCloud and has Siri and all these things, is going to need to continue to expand its drives as the internet grows. So they use the
same consumer hard drives?
No, they use different drives, but they're all made there. And in China, where the other drives are made, they're at 98% capacity. So there's literally nothing that anyone can do.
Yeah.
And so there's 2 problems that are going to happen. Is one, they're not going to have enough drives to expand the internet. But the other problem is that the drives that exist, they're going to have to take engineering resources. Facebook, for example, will have to do this, and figure out ways to get the most out of the drives that are there, so they won't be innovating as quickly and as much.
Haven't we heard this story before? I mean, in the tsunami in Japan, we were very worried there would be big shortages. I remember the RAM factories burning down, and everybody was concerned there'd be shortages. There was price gouging, but in the long run, there was some resiliency. You think there's no resiliency?
In the long run, but in the short term.
Even in the short term, I mean,
when things, when you are decentralizing production like this, there are obviously trade-offs, and a big one is, sure, it's not all in the same place, but it's not all in the same place. So this will have an impact. Nick is right. I mean, this will have an impact at all levels of in technology that are, where these factories are coming into play.
When you're changing the assumptions of a business model and an innovation model that took, something that was scarce, storage,
right,
and then made it plentiful. An abundance of storage changed how we built
$50 for a 2-terabyte drive, for crying out loud.
Yeah. So you look at the scaled up services that Nick is talking about that's built into how your Gmail storage just grows and grows and no thought of it. And what's the engineering behind that has assumed zero-cost storage effectively? Could there be an unintended consequence that maybe they figure out ways to be more efficient as a result of this?
Yes, but they haven't been efficient. I mean, I remember when in the late 90s when I was working as in web startups, and one of my jobs was to figure out how to make a web page less than 100K, and it was taking photos and optimizing them and all of these different things.
You're trying to limit
good thing. No, that was a good thing.
We've gotten really lazy with being economical when it comes to data.
Low prices make you lazy in every part of the economy.
Right.
And also,
think about food, think about our use of oil, think about any.
That's true. It's like a 5-world economy, the 5-world economy, right? I mean, we're treating things like they're just infinite, right? There's an infinite amount of hard drives that are going to be super cheap forever. Correct. So we don't have to worry about, optimizing our data. And we really, that speaks to the cellular problem too. I mean, we have this massive network congestion now. You see AT&T is off, the service is awful a lot of the time. And the reason is because we are pushing far more bandwidth than we really have. I mean, we're pushing into far more bandwidth than we have.
When I was in Ireland, I left my phone on accidentally, and I barely checked my email, and just even the background things that were happening, like sites checking GPS and things like that, was like megabytes and megabytes after like a day. So
you can
that's
expense
happening
that, right?
in the background all the time.
Have you got your bill yet?
I had a phone call with AT&T, and I said, "Look, come on, guys, give me a break. I don't want to pay you $60,000. No, I can't. I can't do that. I can't do that. I get in trouble for that."
I know David Pogue. That works.
Yeah, that works. And then they hang up on you.
We're going to double these charges.
No. But it's weird because our economy. We assume that our economy is one of abundance because we're in an information age.
Yeah.
We don't have these constraints of physical goods.
Natural
but that age
resources
still
are limited.
depends on metals, water, petroleum products, and manufactured goods that are susceptible to natural disasters, which are still events that we fall victim to, both on a human scale.
And this speaks to a larger issue with the way these things are produced. I mean, there is no connection here between and really anywhere in developed countries where the things that you buy, there's a connection of understanding where those things come from and how they're made and what the cost is, what the human cost is, what the monetary cost is. And I think that as technology culture becomes regular culture, we're going to start to see things that we don't like to see. And I feel like we need to address them at some point. We're already starting to see them and start to address them a little bit, but en masse, we're not really doing it. And I think eventually we're going to have to take a look at how these factories are run, where they're run, why they're run the way that they're run, and start thinking.
You want to get really depressed. Have you seen the Slavery Footprint project?
No.
Oh, how many slaves work for you? So but by slaves, I mean people who are essentially working for free or are in bondage and servitude some way. They estimate 27 million of them in the United States. If you go to this website, which is slaveryfootprint.org, and there's an iPhone app as well. You can calculate it. It's a very depressing. Very depressing.
But it's an iPhone app, which is built on a product that uses precious metals.
Just owning an iPhone is not
what is the game? What's the name of the game that was banned from the App Store? That was basically, it was a game where you played as the children who were mining the materials that were used to make silicon. And
the last thing Apple wants you to know is that, of course.
Well, this is something, Joshua. I mean, this is something that I think that we kind of overlook as journalists too. Is look at this shiny new iPhone 4S. But thinking about the things that went into this and the people and everything, it's something that Apple has managed to put behind this magical guard. So we don't know how the magic trick is put together, and really, it's not necessarily.
Well, most companies have. Everybody has. It's completely. You don't see it, and I did a panel a few years ago, and I moderated the panel, and it was about recycling, and we were talking about. I was talking. There was a rep, I think, from Panasonic there, and I was talking about the fact that new TVs come out every few months with just the most incremental, minor changes. And there's evolution of technology and innovation, and then there's you're just pushing it out because you need a new product on the shelves. And I think that at some point in the near future, and look, I mean, this is our business. We report on this stuff. So it's kind of, there's a give and a take for me to think about it and to talk about it. But the truth is, we're confronted with it all the time. This is a great example, and we see it more and more now as we get exposed to how this stuff is really made and who's making it. At some point, we're going to have to start to think about the global impact of this, or I think we're going to be in trouble.
Well, we're not. I mean, it goes far beyond the cell phone. It goes to look at auto.
Yep.
Right? We just made cars. We're just starting to slow that down a little bit. And this is where you reach the limits of our version of capitalism. Because real capitalism would take into account all the costs.
Correct.
And so that the market would assume all that information, absorb it, and reflect it in the price. And the fact is, we don't.
Yep.
Our oil is still too cheap. Our water is too cheap relative to how much it actually costs to get this stuff done. So this is just the major side effect of an industrialized society where things are relatively easy day to day.
Yeah, it's like
even
the $64 tomato.
Yeah.
Right. But even something like subsidizing a phone. I mean, if everybody had to pay $600 for the phone with the actual cost of the phone, would it change our buying habits?
Put a case on it.
I think it would change our buying habits a lot, and I'm not sure that would not be a good thing. I mean, I'm fine with paying. Well, I mean, maybe I can say this because I'm in a different position than a lot of people, but I don't expect things that are nice and work well to be necessarily cheap. Right, I think that's a real illusion that
this is why Brian Lamb quit Gizmodo. Essentially, he said that he
felt like he was pushing this kind of consumerism.
You need to buy another TV next week and another TV.
No, I understand. I feel the same. I often wonder. I question that myself all the time. And I wonder if somebody were risky enough to say, I'm going to make stuff in the United States. I'm going to charge what it's really costing to make this.
Make it so it lasts.
So that it lasts. Would people who have been buying cheap Chinese gadgets all their lives, would they buy this stuff? Would they spend more to buy this kind of to support our economy?
I mean, we shop at farmers markets sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Some people.
I think we would.
I think
we would. I'd like to see somebody think out of the box that way. To be honest,
I agree that it is. There is some element of that where every day are we pushing this stuff. But look, there is a community that's really interested in it, really wants it. But our habits will change, and they already have changed. Our phone buying habits have changed, and now they're they're accelerated, but that's going to change in the future too. I mean, as we, we'll reach a point where, you're not buying a new computer every year or every 2 years. And I think that we'll start to see that with phones as well. But at some point,
I think the whole industry is moving towards 6-month purchase cycles.
The whole point
now,
is working.
we're in the midst of insane innovation. I don't think that that's going to continue.
It's going to get worse. Every indicator is it's going to get worse, not better.
No, it is going to get worse.
The only thing that'll stop it is an economic collapse, but we are headed straight towards that. What's the chat room saying?
The only thing that'll stop 6-month phone
is economic collapse. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I think that at some point we're going to start to level out. I mean, we're just at a point that things are spiking.
There's no history of that.
That's actually really funny. Big Ginge wrote Victorian lawnmowers are still working.
Exactly.
Which is true.
Yeah.
But my first generation, I have a first generation iPod and iPhone. They wouldn't work if I had an engineering degree. Yeah. I mean, those things, they're designed to last.
Can still cut things.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons that I always was resistant to covering gadgets and really always wanted to talk about promoting technology as a democratizer, as a tool, as something that you could continue to use to change the world. And it's something I think we always have to keep in mind is that this is not sustainable, this kind of growth. And yet I don't think it's going to slow down unless we're forced to slow it down.
The system itself has
the system will collapse.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you also have to find, you have to make a decision about what's real innovation and what's phony innovation, right? I think that we have to start looking hard at what is, I mean, there's going to be a period where we don't look at it, but at some point you're going to have to say, is the Droid Razor any better than the Droid Bionic, which came out 3 months ago? And the truth is they're almost the exact same phone, except one is thinner.
iPhone 4S and iPhone 4. Let's be realistic. It's a little
right.
faster,
No, I mean, but I think at some point there will be a leveling out of some of this, and there's also going to be a reevaluation of what we accept as innovation. I mean, right now there's a race going. There's a huge race for who's going to control this mobile space, right? And I don't think it's been completely decided yet. And at some point, it's going to level out. It's going to get decided. I mean, it's like PCs. At some point,
I don't know.
Remember the Amiga?
Well, it's absolutely going to get decided. Not only if you want to go back.
There may be 2 winners or 3 winners, though, not 5 winners. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Yeah, that's
But if you want to go back even further, go back to the typewriter. When the typewriters first came out, there were 30 different styles of keyboards. Right. In the end, we have QWERTY, even though it is not.
It's horrible.
It's horrible, completely. But there were literally 30 different types of keyboards on the market, and there was all these different races and so on.
If innovation continues on the web and in software, where it uses resources but fewer resources, is that where innovation will head in an economic meltdown?
Well, I think we reward things in a system based on the cost we acknowledge. If you look at this hard drive store, which is where this started in Thailand, we will reward efficiency again.
Right.
Because the cost will demand it.
We'll have to.
So society-wide, you look at the cars that are selling now. I mean, look at the price of rental cars over the past decade. SUVs are ridiculously cheap. Because nobody wants them because
you can't afford them.
The Prius is hard to rent. The little smart car is hard to rent because the consumer mindset has shifted because the cost is more acknowledged.
There are those who say
the SUV is a great example of this kind of blindness of the industries and of the consumer to something that is so obviously unnecessary, right? And now we're seeing the backlash to that, which is in the leveling out of people, the desire for an SUV. I mean, it's clear that
I love what you said, Nick, though, that we are setting ourselves up for failure because we are designing things that are obsolete in a year or 2 or 3.
Well, absolutely.
Well, here's a fun exercise. Like, what will our grandchildren say? It'll be WTF.
Yeah.
Or
what were they thinking?
Were you thinking?
Yes.
You thought you could just burn things?
Yeah.
If they're here.
You had
who
5
knows?
phones in 4 years?
If they're here, Joshua, you're dark.
Well, I'm just saying, things are
There's
rough
two
right
aspects.
now.
We have a book, thank God, that says, I live in the future. And here's
and we're still here.
Let's ask the guy. He's from the future, Nick Bilton.
Thank you. I took my time machine in this morning.
Used it for this.
I hate
you
to
had a
tell
time
but
machine.
He actually looks.
I can go anywhere.
Can I just say he looks like he belongs in the 50s? He kind of looks like a hipster. I'm sorry, but
I was told, Baratunde told me to wear the hat.
I did tell him to wear the hat.
I wasn't going to wear it.
Are you really from the band REM?
I wish I was from the band REM.
Wow.
Are you really Michael
This is
Stipe? Come
my
on, admit it.
report look today.
Leo is killing in the studio, guys at home. Killing
Leo,
it.
what does hipster mean?
Okay, but here's the other side of this.
We'll talk about that later.
Moving on from how beautiful I look.
Yes. That's a hipster.
a young person wearing
Now
clothes.
Leo's wearing the hat for those listening.
A man
later
of
in the
my
week.
age, when I wear this, I look like an old fart. I don't look like a
You
hipster.
look like Laurel from Laurel and Hardy.
You should do a little bit.
Are you in stop?
Like
Is there
a
some
silent
stop
film
motion
star.
going on right now? 12 frames a second.
So we were saying, so the other aspect of this that I discovered when I was reporting it is that is when the cost of hard drives go up. These computer makers will go along to other countries and other creators of other parts like DRAM and graphics chips, and they'll say, you have to give us this at a lower price because we need to maintain the cost to keep the final goods down. So now every single country feels the effects, and then these workers then get lower wages and they get less hours, and their families.
See, that's the real problem, is that this kind of poverty and
globalization,
institutionalized slavery is invisible to us.
Correct.
Those are costs that we just will not see.
Correct. All we want to do is hit like on our Facebook page, and we don't.
No, I mean, we found a way to move it out of our view. Right.
Yes.
That's the thing. We're like, hey, we can move it out of our view. And say Americans don't want to do these jobs that are really hard, long hours.
Frosts my nuggets. Siri was down for 3 days.
It really
Can we just
frosts my
3 days,
ladies and gentlemen? We have
Can we
to
just pause at that so everyone can
frost my nuggets.
I have to go.
Can you explain what nuggets
are
you're talking about,
speaking of,
and how
sir?
are we frosting
And
them?
where is this Kellogg's frost? Is it like a sugary frost?
Yes.
It's a freezer
tasty?
frost.
Yes. It's a chill. It's a chill in the air.
Chilling effect on your
chilling
nuggets.
effect. Shrinkage.
I think we found the name of today's show.
And that's why he's turned to the porn page.
My nuggets on rye.
really have gone all over here
Yeah.
from really. We've gone from the depths of deep philosophical discussion, or sorry, the heights of deep philosophical.
We've talked about porn.
To the depths of nuggets.
Yes.
Leo's nuggets.
We've gone porn,
Leo's
globalization, nuggets. What's next?
Let's
Leo?
let Leo segue because he's got
I'm sorry. There's no story to go for
This is the rye talking.
This is the rye talking. I think we're going to take a break and then come back and then regroup.
So you can
Leo's gotta
unfrost your nuggets?
I can warm up my nuggets with a little commercial from a company I call Audible.com. Yeah, we love Audible.com. I listened to the entire Steve Jobs book driving in my car and at the gym. I am now about to do Ream D, which is the Neil Stephenson book, American Gods from Neil Gaiman, and I hope that I know there's an audiobook of this.
There is an audiobook. Yeah, it's actually very good.
It's supposed to be very good.
That's how I
forget who read it, but it was he's really good.
Yeah.
So you could get the paperback. Or you can go to audible.com and find out how the future works from Nick Bilton
In an audio version.
in audio version. In fact, this, you know what?
Do you
I'll
read
tell
that, Nick? Is that
No, Mike Chamberlain. You want to hear Mike read it a little bit? Just a little bit.
Oh, was it Mike Chamberlain that read it?
Do you know Mike Chamberlain?
Yeah, I spoke to him on the phone.
Did he call you up and say, how do you pronounce this thing?
He did. He
Kludge?
said, how do you say iPhone?
Yeah.
How do you say Bilton?
How do you say Thailand?
Listen.
Displayed by subject and order of importance. Culled by Times editors. My
Did they
colleagues.
pick somebody that sounds like you? Did they do that? It seems like they do.
I don't know. No, I don't. I don't know. Maybe there
Top
was a
stories
meeting
are
that I
here.
wasn't in
Business
attendance.
articles
Sounds
are there.
just like him.
Sports is in the back of the business section on most weekdays.
No?
Nick's
But
got
that's
more.
the problem.
More manly
Rough.
voice.
It's only a
to his
collection
voice.
of what editors think is appropriate.
Anyway, it's a great way to listen to books.
Yeah.
Get them read. I am a huge Audible fan. I'm going to get you 2 books here. So the real challenge is there are 100,000 books at audible.com. That's the new number now.
Wow, that's impressive.
100,000 books. You know why? Because publishers realize people like audiobooks. Nobody has time to read anymore.
Yeah.
And nowadays, when a book like the Jobs book comes out, day and date of the release, they have the audiobook.
audio
I hope you're going to do it.
Oh, dude, I've got some amazing news. I just booked my voiceover dates.
You're going to do it?
Of course.
You have to do
You're
it.
reading my own book.
Yes.
Oh, you have
It's
to
going to
do
be
it.
a great way.
It's the way it should be.
It's a personal
Listen,
book.
So
Nick.
January, when this comes out, we'll be able to listen to Baratunde.
Yeah,
do it.
you can do
it
it
has
on
to be your voice. And the thing is, you're a performer, you're an entertainer, you have a beautifully cultured voice.
Why, thank you,
You could get
Leo.
Morgan Freeman to read it, but it wouldn't be the same.
No, it wouldn't, Leo.
No.
Wouldn't be.
Why would
How
it
to
have
be
to be
black.
Morgan Freeman?
Morgan Freeman.
By Baratunde.
So when are you gonna read it? How long did they tell you how long it takes?
I got 3 days booked.
3 days.
There's a little cushion built into that, and I'm doing it in
It's 250
late
pages.
November.
Yeah.
Late November or mid-December. I have to. It's in my Google Calendar.
That's great.
It's in the future. Nick
That's
knows.
great.
Yes, I will be
Nick reading
going
is
there
reading
right
my
after
book in the
this.
future. Yeah.
I'm going to
back.
be going there right after this event into Back to the
Yeah.
Future to help you with it.
But
so.
I've done some readings at shows just to test it out.
Oh, I bet
and,
you're great.
It's so much fun to read your own book, and I think people who had read some chapters online that I'd shared, they're like, "Oh, it's totally different when you read it. That's
Yeah,
not how
yeah.
I heard it."
But now
And I'm
that's
putting the
why
emphasis where
this
I
is
think
why
it
I'm loving
belongs.
audiobooks because you really it's a performance. It's,
Yeah, no, it's
you
definitely
participate
a show.
in it.
It's a show.
I like the idea of you reading your own book. That's great. David Cross. Has
he's
done that.
awesome.
And I really like
It
because it
depends-
is his voice.
Yeah.
You get the exact
Depends
feeling.
on the reader. Okay, so like for instance, David Sedaris, he should read his own books because he has such a unique voice,
The
and the
delivery
voice
is a big
comes
part of
through in the writing, and it's much better. Sarah Vowell, same thing, weird voice, got to go with the book.
Wait, should I have read my own book? Do you
No.
think? No.
Yes, you made a huge
Then
mistake.
there's Nick.
Wow.
Ring.
Should I have Siri read my next book?
Siri might be better.
She'll go down.
she's
She'll
available.
fail.
All she'll say is, I'm unable to connect to the network.
To the server.
sorry. Tina Fey read her own book, Bossy Pants, and she should.
Yeah, absolutely.
Al Franken's book was read by Tina Fey. That shows you how good that was. Anyway, audible.com. Here's your problem. You got to figure out what 2 books to get. The first ones are free, though. So if you go to audible.com.
I don't think they have to figure out what 2 books to get. They have to figure out what 1 book to get in addition to my book.
Perfectly said. We know you're getting Nick's book. The question is, what's that other book?
Right.
So I Live in the Future and Hear How It Works by Nick Bilton. Hear How It Works by Nick Bilton. That's your first book. Pick another book. Steve Jobs' book would be good. You could that. You know what? That was
That was actually.
I was depressed at the end of it. It's like I'm so sad, but was worth listening
to. It was
to.
excellent book.
It's
Fantastic.
well done.
It's a lot to take right around his death. I mean, you don't normally.
That's a good
somebody
point.
dies, and then immediately
That's
you
a
read their
good point.
What did he
biography
say?
that you've never read before, that was never possible to read.
Because it came out right after he died.
Yeah.
It was kind of more sad than it might have been otherwise. I think that's true. Oh,
Also
James Dickey's Deliverance has never been out in unabridged form on audiobook. It is now. That would be a good one.
Deliverance.
You got a purty mouth, almost like a woman.
It's so creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, Leo, there's
don't do
definitely
that.
something wrong with you. I want you to know you're not a normal person.
I am not a normal person. I am me, and that's who I want to be. Will Patton reads this. Oh, he's going to be like, we got to listen to a little
It
Deliverance.
unrolled slowly, forced to show its colors,
Oh, this is good.
curling and snapping back whenever one of us turned loose.
Squeal like a pig.
The whole land was very tense until we put our 4 steins on its corners and laid the river
like
out to
Cornbread
run
Hearts.
for us.
See, hear that performance? That's a performance.
Who's your favorite author, Leo?
Ever of all time?
All time? Like, who do you? Yeah.
I love Neil Stephenson. I'm a big a Cryptonomicon, one of my favorite books of all time. I love that. I loved the last one.
Did you
Baratunde
read The
is your
System of the
favorite.
World? Did you read the trilogy?
I tried. Quicksilver had a hard time.
You should read it. You should.
know.
You got to get through the first book into the second.
That's
It's
probably
amazing.
it. Yeah, because it's really about the history of science. That's what's kind of interesting about it. He's a brilliant.
And the economy. It's about the history
it's
of
about
our modern
economics.
economy.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's hard to read, but it's worth it.
Well, they have it on Audible, so maybe that's the way I'll do it. It's like 18 volumes.
All right,
With a
Audible.
bottle of rye and
3,000 pages. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great night.
Audible.com/twit2. 2 books.
2 books.
That's the platinum account. It's a subscription, 2 books a month, but the first month's free. You can cancel it any time. Those books are yours to keep forever.
How much? How much for the subscription?
I don't know. That's the one I have, and it's $15, $20. I don't know what it is. It's worth it. It is really worth it, but it's
Set
free
it
for the
and
first
forget
month.
it.
I use it.
I use it too.
2 books a month is about right?
I actually started using it after being on the show.
And do you like it?
I love it.
Are you saying advertising works?
And you don't have a big commute, but it's just that there's always time that in the gym or where you walk
Well, I
into
don't
the
go to
bar.
gym. I'm at the bar a lot.
Yeah, on the way to the bar.
You know he writes about
the
technology.
commute to the
right?
bar.
Commute to the bar, at the bar, the staggering commute home where I don't remember the last chapter I heard.
That's a new ad campaign for Audible.
I got to say, this is why I
Kind of a
love
boring
Foursquare, because
bar
I
commute.
know exactly where Nick is at all times.
Yeah, all right,
It's
give it up for
amazing.
Audible, y'all. This is
Give it
this
up.
is good stuff.
Audible.com. Thank you very much
/twit2.
for their support.
I just coded the ad with you. That's how much I love Audible.
You are good.
I'm a junkie.
Apple
We got-
TV going to happen? What do you think, Joshua? You were on top of this stuff.
Well, Gene Munster has been saying it's going to happen for 10 years straight. He's an analyst, in case you're wondering.
I know.
He's been willing this into existence by
He
just.
succeeded.
Did
So
you guys see my
I
Apple
know what-
Television Siri story?
No.
I think.
You
Oh,
didn't
I
see
did.
it? Okay.
I did see
That's
that.
right.
You
It's a
said,
good-
when Steve Jobs says in the book, I've licked it, you said, this is how he's licked it.
Yeah, he wasn't talking about making a television. They've known that since 2007. You know, the whole concept that Apple TV was a hobby is complete nonsense.
They knew what
You
they
know,
were doing.
Apple
He always
does
says,
not
right.
have hobbies.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't like this. We hate it, and then he's
Yeah.
And then they
making
do it.
or we
No
don't
one will
care
ever do
about it.
this.
Yeah.
And they do it.
And then they do it.
Yeah.
They did it with every single
Video.
product
No one
they
will ever have video on their handheld device.
No one wants to watch
Right?
video
No one
on their
reads.
iPhone.
No one reads anymore. The iPad and
telling
bookstore.
But what
It's
they struggled with, and I know this from speaking to people at and with the company, is that what they struggled with was they wanted to create an interface that was simple, and the remote control is the biggest piece of garbage that exists in technology today.
Right. And you could tell that
awful.
it would just drive Steve crazy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Just the way he is. He was in the
4 buttons. That's so many buttons.
He was in the hospital dying. He was dying. I think it was he had pneumonia. It was terrible. He was really on death's door.
Yeah.
And he's saying he's redesigning the finger cuff that measures his blood. His heartbeat.
Correct.
He says it's poorly designed, and he's talking to the doctor saying, this is a piece of crap. It could be so much better. This is how this guy lived for this stuff. So Nick, you wrote a couple of days ago, what's really next for Apple on television? And it isn't a television set.
Well, it is a television set, absolutely.
Oh, it is?
Oh, it is. It's a matter of when. Part of the things is waiting for the margins to come down.
Crazy.
Why is it crazy? You know how much a 32-inch television costs now? It's $250.
Right.
2 years ago, it was $1,000.
So you don't think it's a 60-inch TV?
I think it's going to be the same as we have. I think at first they will release just one television.
Right.
But then
think about if they made their displays and they had what is essentially an Apple TV and just a display. I mean, they could do it in a way that seems somewhat economical. It's not going to be for everybody.
Correct.
But it's going to be for a certain segment.
It'll be
of
$1,000.
But if they corner 5%, which is just 5% of the market,
Like
it's
they've done with
$19 billion in revenue per quarter.
Wow. Yeah.
That's not including per quarter. And that's not including any kind of deals they make with television.
But the key you say is this voice recognition.
I think the key is that it's the interface. That when you can sit there and you can say, Siri, put on the latest Big Bang Theory, or Siri,
I
find
agree.
me
That would be awesome.
Find me that
Record the
video.
Republican debate.
Yeah,
Done.
exactly.
How many? It's so hard to find some of these things. Still,
And or Siri, find me that video of those cats that everyone's been talking about this week on YouTube.
and then it crashes.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean the use case is definitely one thing that needs to be considered, and I think that Nick is onto something. They have to simplify the interface, right? Even Apple TV is miserable to use. I mean, anybody who has an Apple TV can attest to the fact that it is nightmarish to navigate that thing, and that's pretty good. So. They have to crack making it better to use, but they also have to crack partnerships, and they have to crack how you get the content. Like, where's the content coming from, right? And I actually wrote something, a column in the Washington Post about this, that they may, an app model might make sense. John Gruber was talking about this, and I tend to agree with him that an app model could make a lot of sense for some of this stuff.
Google may beat them to it. They're going to add the market to Google TV in an update this week.
Google has a problem with? It's a thing called a user interface that they know nothing about.
And a wallet that they don't have access to.
Also the hardware. I mean, their hardware is clunky. How do you get Google TV on your television? Do you know?
No. Yes, I have a Google TV, and I love it.
Really?
I have the Logitech Review.
Oh,
so
like
it's a pass-through device. So and I like this. Instead of having to take an extra HDMI port and switching on my TV to another port, it passes, the cable box passes through it. So it's an overlay on top of my existing TV.
Leo, you're describing a setup where you have to connect some extra box into your television in addition to the rest of the stuff that you already have. Nobody wants to do that. Everybody hates that idea. I mean, it's a fact. The less boxes, the better.
So I want to actually point something out to you right now. If you have Lion, right, on your computer, right?
I got it.
And if you let me just log out of my computer, and if you look on the front of the screen, can you pull yours up?
I will log out. Do you want me to log out?
I don't know. Can you?
You're Lion?
Here, let me just hold this up.
Yeah.
So this I truly believe. You see this little circle here?
Yeah.
So
they changed that.
They made it a circle.
It's bizarre.
So what else?
Why did they do
a little circle, but Siri.
Yeah. Siri.
Right?
So are we turning into Siri? I don't understand.
So eventually what's going to happen,
Siri
this is my belief, that eventually what's going to happen, this interface is simple. When you buy an iPhone or an iPad or a computer,
you know how to use it. There's no manual.
You will open it up and Siri will say, "Who are you?" And you'll say, "I'm Nick Bilton." It'll say, "Oh, let me go and get all your stuff for you."
Right.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's on the cloud.
Now
Mike Elgin wrote a very interesting article taking this to the next step on Cult of Mac.
That was I hated that article.
You hated it?
First of all, can you read the opening line of that article, please?
A few years ago, everything was peaceful in the Valley of Silicon. The relationships.
Stop right there.
Oh, that's
all right. It's a crappy first sentence. I admit it, but let me forget the writing.
Yeah.
And I like Mike a lot, and he's a regular on the show, so I'm not going to slam his writing.
No.
But I think he's got a point. Remember that Jobs said he was going to wage thermonuclear war against Google. So what does that mean? It means removing all traces of Google from the iPhone. right?
Yes.
So no more Google search. And how do you do that? Because you tell Siri to find it for you.
Siri is the future of Apple.
Siri replaces
Hands
Google.
down.
It replaces
Replaces
Google
everything.
search.
It doesn't, but Siri doesn't replace Google until it has actual search capability. Siri is just piggybacking on search capability.
Well, it could go to Bing.
It could go to Bing. Google on the back.
It could go to Bing if they want to partner with Microsoft instead of Google, but that doesn't.
But Apple bought the mapping software.
C3, they have 3D mapping now.
But when it comes to search, real search, they need a source. Wolfram Alpha is one of their sources.
Okay, but what if,
Google is
okay,
one
so
of
let
the
me just
sources.
pose this question. What if that source were an API within every app that exists in the App Store?
And let them do
Well,
the
I mean,
search. Because really,
does that-
let's think of it. This
if only
search is
apps matter,
changing.
then that would be very powerful.
I think you're in the old world of what search is, which is you state a search term and you find web pages that match that search term.
Well, it depends on what
Siri is something very different.
It's context sensitive.
You're
If
not
looking
really
for a
searching
restaurant,
for a web page.
it'll go to Yelp.
Exactly.
But you're searching for.
you're
You may be
looking for
searching for
answers.
content. You may be searching for a specific show. And it's easy if you tie into apps. You do get some huge advantages. You get automatic loads and loads of content that you can incorporate into a search, right? But if you're searching in a broader sense, like for news or for other pieces of content, then it becomes a little bit tougher.
Is it the Valley of
So,
Silicon that you don't like? Is
No,
that
no,
what you don't
I
like?
think, well, there are a couple of things. I mean, I think it was a very fantastic metaphor.
Yes.
In terms of thermonuclear and taking Steve's words and
Yes.
kind of running with them. But I do think there is an overall fallacy to the argument of this piece, which is he assumes that the relationship that Google and Apple had would have looked exactly like the Android relationship that Google has with its own apps on iOS. He's making a, if we could look through his list of thermonuclear
Apple didn't
options.
have maps. They didn't have a lot of features. Google offered those for free on the iPhone. But Apple is clearly moving actively and quickly to replace them all. That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
That's clearly true.
But it's not, I don't know how much, he talks about Google, Yelp to replace Google Places.
Right.
So Google Places isn't the incumbent, right? It's not like it owns the market on local.
But if you
Can
do
I do a long bet?
Yeah.
I am willing to bet that in 3 years, it is 2011, November 6th, in 2 to 3 years, every single Apple device will be powered by Siri.
That's what Mike is essentially saying.
Well, I think that's
that the desktops will, the laptops will, the phones will,
The
the TV
television
will,
will,
and
everything.
Siri becomes suddenly this kind of very intelligent because it's interacting with you a lot.
And it replaces it replaces that Google search box, which is the primary web interface for so many people.
It disintermediates
the browser,
so you
which is the
don't go to
primary
Google
interface to the
anymore.
world.
Siri gets to decide
But
where
it's
you
not
go.
even just that you don't go to Google. If you think, here's what I liked about the article. He talks about Wolfram Alpha as the result generator for your queries to Siri. You don't even have to know that.
You don't
Siri
care.
is
You
the
don't
window
know
through
it,
which
really.
you see the world.
Well, and that's the point, Josh.
Beyond
Yes,
the
they don't
pencil.
have
But that's-
search, but they don't. But they
have an
do-
interface.
If they have the intermediary, actually, it's not disintermediating; it's re-intermediating.
Yeah.
Well, but it's in one way there, but there still needs to be something at the end of it. There needs to be content or an item at the end.
But who
of the
controls
search,
it?
right?
But doesn't-
Well,
but-
but where does that come from? But I think you're right, Nick, that Siri is going to appear on all of Apple's devices. But I think the key phrase there is on all of Apple's devices.
Yeah.
And the internet and the world is a lot bigger than all of Apple's devices, and Google knows that.
But here's what Apple knows, and here's what we talked about earlier in the show. Let's go back to the 5%. Nick, you said all Apple needs is 5% share to generate $20 billion in
a
revenue.
quarter.
And let's remember that operating margin conversation we just had a few weeks ago, where they have 4-point-something% of the smartphone market and 52% of that
profits.
market's operating profit. So it's not just a question of market share, it's a question of revenue and, more importantly, profit share. They could dominate the business with only 5%.
And
when you
let-
think
they
about their
they're going to
ability
make a lot of money.
monetize-
Make no mistake.
When you-
Well, and it's
Tim
not
Cook
just
gets
about
charged,
money;
they're gonna
it's
make a lot of
about
money.
power in the business. And let me point out this: that Google seems to be going down a very dangerous path. They're becoming more and more like Microsoft in the 90s.
absolutely.
They're becoming more and more rapacious, and frankly, they may well get their heads chopped off by the Department of Justice, by the EU. It's getting more and more, and Google does not seem to have a unified strategy in all of this.
I agree completely.
I don't think they've ever had a unified strategy. That's Google, right? They're beta tech. The business is in beta. I mean, I think that they're kind of just seeing.
That was pretty smart,
I don't think
Josh.
that Google has. I mean, a lot of the new stuff they're doing is.
He's a smart guy. He's on the verge of
I think
something
that's it, Josh. You're done for the day.
We're all done for the day. I'm going to wrap this up because I have to go.
You said. Did I miss something? Are we? What happened?
No, when you said that Google's business is in beta, we were saying that's very
No, that's
smart.
really good. Maybe that's
No, it's true, but it is true. When you watch what they do, they just killed a bunch of stuff that they bought a couple of years ago without any. They weren't sure why they bought it. They were like, well, maybe that'll be part of our business. And with Android, I think they started kind of going, well, maybe we could do smartphones. And I don't feel like their first couple of phones were awful.
Yeah.
And I don't think they had a real idea of what they wanted to make, which is so different than what Apple did, right? Which is they had the exact idea of what they wanted to make. But I think that Google looks, I don't know if they look evil. I just think they look confused. You know, they kind of don't. It's like these guys, I actually believe that they built this big business and all of a sudden they're kind of like, hey, turns out we have a monopoly on search. Whoops, that was an accident. You know, I don't think they're like Microsoft in the sense that, there were some really crazy practices of Microsoft throughout the 90s that were just, you had to call into question. And they've changed that, I think. But Google doesn't seem as malicious to me as Microsoft was when Bill Gates was there.
We shall see. We're going to find out what's ahead in the week to come. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go to the newsroom where Tom Merritt has this.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Thanks, Leo. Here's a look at what we'll be covering on Tech News Today in the week ahead. Starting today, Sunday, November 6th, AT&T BlackBerry Build 9900 and the Torch 9860 come out. Also, the Nintendo DSi XL bundles arrive. Monday, November 7th, Barnes & Noble holds their big announcement that everybody leaked on Friday, so we know it's going to be 3 new Nooks. Microsoft's holding a Windows Phone Backstage event on that same day, and the Tango video calling service for Windows Phone Mango is set to roll out. Tuesday, November 8th, AdTech kicks off in New York at the Javits Center. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 arrives, and N-Control's Avenger for PS3 begins pre-sale. Wednesday, November 9th, Asus ePad Transformer Prime arrives, and it's the nationwide test of the emergency broadcast system. Be appropriately alarmed. Friday, November 11th, the Apple iPhone 4S launches in 15 more countries. Minecraft exits beta, and Skyrim launches.
Ooh.
Finally, Saturday, November 12th, it's Science Hack Day in San Francisco. That's a look at the week ahead. Back to you, Leo.
Tom Merritt, TNT, Tech News Today, every Monday through Friday, 2:30 p.m. Pacific, 5:30 Eastern, 22:30 UTC on TWiT.tv. And congratulations, Tom won the Best Technology Podcast Award, the People's Choice, or the Podcast Awards this week, beating such incredible podcasts as App Slappy, Pod Nuts, and We Nerd Hard. So,
Are you serious?
We Nerd Hard.
You think I'd make that up?
Elon James White.
App Slappy. No, I've heard We Nerd Hard, but App Slappy.
Pod Nuts and We Nerd Hard.
Was this the sex category for podcasting?
I don't know what I just frost my nuggets. I want to thank Joshua Topolsky for being here. The Verge is awesome.
I think we should do a little toast for Josh for launching The Verge. Congratulations.
Well done. Well
Thank
done.
you.
Nice job.
I'll drink to that.
Yep,
So say
yep,
y'all.
well done. Really a great site, and I think Engadget should be, Ariana should be shaking in her Pradas right now because you've got it.
In her
man.
what?
Pradas.
Pradas.
Oh,
It's a
Pradas.
kind of,
I thought you were talking about
feminism.
nuggets again,
Nuggets, yeah.
Those frosted nuggets.
The book is not out yet, but I've got a copy. That's because I'm special. How to Be Black, Baratunde Thurston. I'm so proud of you. That's
Thank you
exciting. That's
so
so
much.
great.
You've been-
Baratunde, of course, writes for The Onion, is their web editor. What is your title?
Director of Digital.
That's what I said.
That's close.
Also, go to howtobeblack.me/join/twit
Yes.
to be part of the Army promoting this fabulous book.
Promoting, engaging, changing,
Yeah.
expanding.
I can tell you, I haven't had a whole lot of time to read it, but everything I've read is very good. I'm really excited
Thanks,
about it.
Leo.
Yeah, it's really, really
No, it's-
funny but trenchant.
Ooh,
Yeah,
from
trenchant.
Leo Laporte. That's my blurb.
And now in paperback, I Live in the Future, and here's how it works from Nick Bilton. Nick writes for the New York Times Bits blog and is a reporter for the Times. And, of course, you can also listen to the audiobook at audible.com. Thank you, Nick, for being here. Thank you all for being here. What fun. Thanks for the bullet rye.
Of course, Leo.
Thank you all for joining us. We do this show 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern, 2200 UTC at twit.tv. What's the matter?
Thanks to the studio, the live
What a
audience.
great studio
Yes,
audience.
thanks to the
Wonderful.
studio
Everybody
audience.
being here from
Thank you
all
very
over the
much.
world. They join us every week, even though we have no bathrooms, which is saying...
Ew.
What happened to your bathrooms?
You don't know about
The
that?
people at
No,
home
I
didn't
don't
need
know
to
about
know.
You could afford them.
No, the pipe broke.
Oh.
Oh.
To-
Do you have bathrooms?
Does that have anything
They're
to do
not
with frosted
you have
nuggets?
bathrooms, you can't go in there. Yeah, frost my
Does it have anything to
nuggets.
do with the flooding? Is there?
It hits the
Is there
flooding
flooding?
in
In
Thailand has
Thailand.
somehow broken our toilets. I don't know why I shouldn't have even brought
Yeah, we
it
should thank the chat room audience, which has been
Always the chat room.
entertaining.
Always
Yes,
great.
especially that who had the Victorian lawnmower comment?
Yes, that was
Big
Googie Woogie
Gigi,
123.
Genie in a bottle.
Nook Jello number 9. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll see you next week. Another TWiT. Oh, by the way, one of the reasons we're wrapping this so early, I have to get over to Vegas.
Yeah, you do.
I'm going to be speaking at PubCon on Tuesday, so if you're at PubCon, come see me.
Can I make a quick plug?
Eileen Rivera would like to plug something.
Go Eileen.
TWiT.tv/best-of. Please send us your best submissions of the year, your favorite moments, your favorite stories from any of our TWiT shows. There's a drop-down menu here on the site. So if you want to go to This Week in Tech and nominate episode 326, the Rye episode, go for it.
You can actually, you don't have to give us as much information as you know, but if you just kind of remember something dimly, it'll help us. We want to put together best-of episodes for New Year's Day. We are going to have our traditional TWiT Christmas with John Hodgman, Jonathan Colton, and Paul and Storm, and that'll be on Christmas Day this year, on Sunday the 25th of December.
Is that in the studio, or is that...
Usually they join us via Skype because there's usually large consumptions of Jägermeister, and we just really don't want to clean up after them.
Got it.
So even if they were in town, we'd kind of ask them not to come in. It's really not nice. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. Another TWiT is in the can.
This is amazing.
Doing the TWiT. All right. Doing the TWiT, baby. Doing the TWiT. All right.
Can you hear us?
And that'll
Hey,
be it.
Hey.
yes.
All right.
I can.
There is Joshua.
Hi, how are you?
Congratulations. What a great looking site.
Oh, get out of here.
I am sincere.
Ghost dog.
But
But I have a question.
Get in here. Yeah.
I am sincere. We're talking about TheVerge.com, which is kind of made me sad because I realized I blew it in our site redesign, that this is really what I wanted to do.
That was my goal, was to make you feel
It
bad.
made me sad. I realized that
So how can I get Leo?
the tiled, this is it. And what you've done, which is great, is you have big, beautiful pictures in every article. And then the thing I really, actually, this is the wrong article to pick because this is, the jawbone is a one-of-a-kind. So let me pick something that is not a one-of-a-kind.
Well, it's not one of a kind. I mean, it is custom.
In
though.
the sense that on other pages you will have, you'll aggregate all of that you've written about that after you read the initial article. You've done a nice job, I think, of aggregating previous articles.
I think you're talking about story streams, which is a
story streams, the trademark.
Yeah, it is actually. I believe they're working on the Vox product team is working on patenting that right now. But it is, yeah, story streams are a way that you can put a container on a story and pull in all of the specific relevant pieces of that story in a chronological narrative, which is kind of amazing. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that when we saw what SB Nation was doing, I was like, this would be incredible for.
Oh, they did it for their sports stuff.
Yeah, they have it on the sports stuff, and we were just thinking when we saw it, how incredible is this when you go from like a rumor and you have the code name, and then you see a leaked photo.
Thing. Yeah,
yeah, and you get this whole stream of
chronological list of things. Yeah,
yeah, it's really
very
exciting.
nicely done.
Thank you. I mean, it's exciting to see something in publishing online that. Something that where it's like, oh wait, you couldn't do this before, and now I can do it, and it's a whole new sort of makes you think differently about the content that you're making and how you make it.
Eileen will validate this because I told her this. I said that this is the future of the magazine. I mean, this is exactly what if you think outside of the box, you don't think in terms of magazines. Making a website be a magazine, this is what you should have it be. So you have previous story, next story. You have story streams. Here's the story stream.
And we try, and you see that there's contextual information. You've got the products that are mentioned in the story. Yep. You can go right to their product pages. And we're actually working on doing even more sort of cyclical, organic connections between that stuff. So eventually there'll be inline stuff. And then when you get to those pages, there'll be stuff. There already is related, but we're going to kind of build that. And yeah, I mean, it's, it was exciting for us because we had a blank slate. When we started working on this.
You obviously your writers have been working for the last month or so creating content before you open because it's a rich site.
Well, we've been working on doing content, but also we had all of This Is My Next content, which we migrated into The Verge. So we have a bunch of stuff that, I mean, it's kind of we never planned on doing This Is My Next. This Is My Next was like, we wanted to write, and then it kind of spiraled out of control in a good way.
Right.
But
it worked
but
out though, because you got
the residual.
content.
Yeah, the residual is that we had all this content when we launched, so it wasn't like here's page 1 and then page 2 is totally blank.
Big challenge for a site, brand new site. How do you make it a rich, deep, rich site? I think you've done a nice job. Look at this.
But it also made it challenging on the flip side, which is to try to write and build something at the same time is rather complicated. So we were, it was a bit of a mad dash at the end.
I like 5 minutes on the Verge. I think that's great.
Yeah, we should do one. We'll do a 5 minutes on the Verge with you if you're open to it. We're just doing quick conversations, just sort of a snapshot of a.
So what came up for me though, and so that's the positive. What came up for me though is you've made a great destination, and I just wonder, do destinations matter anymore? In other words, I notice how I read content is I read it in aggregation. Yeah. So if there's a great Verge article on the Jawbone Up, I will see it on my Twitter stream or my Facebook stream, or I'll see it in my RSS reader or whatever. I'll read that article, but then I leave the Verge. In other words, it's does destination make sense anymore?
So yeah, no, I mean, in a way, yes, and then in some ways, no. I mean, there are people who come to the front page and scan the front page, and one of the reasons we designed the front page the way we designed it was for the people who haven't been there 20 times in a day. Right. The people who are getting
that's the thing I like the best is this tiled aggregation of everything you've missed.
Our thinking was with the site was, and this, you see this in the long form and you see it in our product database and even in the forums, is there are all these places you can enter the site. I don't expect people to enter the site from one place. I think they're going to come in from a bunch of different ways, and they're going to get the content it's almost, you could almost just have that piece of content by itself, right? And just that piece of the site by itself, and not have to necessarily be on the rest of the site.
It's true.
And the whole idea is that, yeah, it's all sort of viral. I mean,
it's sticky enough so that when I get here, I see the Jawbone story, but I also see previous, next. I see that you've done a night. That's why the story stream is so great. It might draw me into more of the site. So in some ways, you see every landing page as a front page.
Well, and I think a lot of people coming to find reviews are looking. They go to Google, they search, Jawbone Up review, and they just want to read that review. And that's the reviews pages serve that perfectly. And I don't think I'm going to, I actually don't think people are looking at the sidebar very often and going, all right, now I'm here and I want to go to somewhere else. I think a lot of times they just need to get, I think in certain instances, like long form stuff, they're looking for this one piece of content. They're not necessarily there to browse around, but we do have, I think we're offering a kind of balance of that. But when I was thinking about this, when we were trying to figure out what we wanted to build, it was like, you can't get it. You're not a portal. I mean, to some people you're a portal, but not to everybody.
That was my thought, is you made it a beautiful portal, but that will be less important as time goes by.
Yeah, and I think we'll learn, we're 5 days, 6 days into this site. I think we're going to learn behavior. The long form stuff is brand new, and so we'll see what the behavior is on these pages. But so far they're performing great in terms of traffic. People love them. The comments have been really positive. So, I mean, I'm just ecstatic that people like it, because I thought we were taking a bunch of risks, and it's always scary to do something weird and not be sure if people are going to care.
I think this is an Engadget killer. I really do. I know that probably wasn't job 1, might have been job 4.
It's on now.
But I really think, I mean, don't you think this is an Engadget killer?
I think it's beautiful.
It's so gorgeous. You're doing a lot of long form stuff, which I think is very interesting. One of the reasons I love Ars Technica is the long form stuff.
Well, one of the things that we learned at This Is My Next that was immediate, when we started writing there, we said, well, we're not going to do every piece of news, right? So we just started doing editorials and reviews and longer form stuff. We'd do events, and people were like, I love this. This is the meaty stuff that I really want to read. Yeah. And we've been trying to do that at Engadget. We've been trying to build out our longer form stuff, but of course we had this crush of news that we had to deal with every day, and we weren't expanding in the right way. So we wanted to do that. That's a big emphasis for us at this thing. And I think people are starting to go back to, and I'm sure Nick can attest to this, I mean, people are starting to want to find the narrative of these stories. It's not just about the quick hit. And I love the quick hit. I love, like, hey, breaking news. But people want to know what this, the culture of technology.
Do. That's kind of, I mean, to me, that's what TWiT is. It's not the quick hit. You don't come here to find out what's new and what's hot. You want to hear the narrative. You want to hear the context, the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of context that's missing, and there's a lot of narrative that isn't getting told. So I think we're trying to do that in the way that we think is engaging and interesting.
I think that's the thing. Like when I first started blogging,
get that mic right in your mouth.
Right in my mouth.
Eat it like the lollipop.
Inside your mouth.
Yeah.
No, I think you're absolutely right, Joshua. When I first started blogging for the Times, I knew I'd never be able to actually win on timing for the most part. I can break stories and things like that, but when it comes to press releases, you know, everyone's going to just put the headline, and that's not what the Times does. And so I had to look at reporting from an analytical standpoint and talking to researchers and things like that. And I was amazed at how people, that's what people want. They want that.
We got to start the show, so hold on, and we will continue. Of course, the best part of the show, as always, before we recording.